As American colonists struggled to find some way to break free from the military and economic grip of Great Britain in the 1770s, groups of settlers staged protests to make their feelings known. One such group was the Sons of Liberty. The Sons of Liberty were founded by Samuel Adams and included members like his second cousin, John Adams, who would become the second President of the United States 25 years later. Other Sons of Liberty were John Hancock, Patrick Henry, and Paul Revere. By the 1770s, Americans were brewing more than 1 million pounds of tea imported from Britain a year. With that much tea being consumed, the British figured to make even more money by placing a tax on it. But the colonists had long yelled, "No taxation without representation." Just what did that mean? Basically, it didn't seem fair that folks in America were being taxed by England, where they had no legislators in Parliament. They felt they shouldn't have to pay taxes when their interests weren't being represented by the British government. One of these taxes was created in 1767 with the Townshend Revenue Act. It taxed not just tea, but other items like glass, lead, oil, paint, and paper. These were materials the colonists used to build structures, light their homes, and print books and newspapers. While much of the Townshend Revenue Act was repealed in 1770, the Tea Act of 1773 continued to make tea drinking an expensive pastime. The Sons of Liberty agreed that something had to be done about the high cost of tea, so they gathered over 5,000 people for a meeting in Boston on December 16, 1773. By evening, it was decided that about 100 protesters, many disguised as American Indians, would board 3 ships in Boston Harbor. These ships held tea from the British East India Company. Once aboard the ships, the protesters dumped nearly 100,000 pounds of tea, worth almost $2 million by today's standard, into the harbor's water. The Sons of Liberty were careful not to damage or destroy anything else on the ships during their 3-hour spree. As a result, the Brits were angered, as one might expect, and they shut down Boston Harbor. It would not be reopened until the lost tea was paid for, something the settlers refused to do. By mid-1774, Britain had enacted a number of new acts, further restricting and punishing the people of Massachusetts. By September, the First Continental Congress met in Philadelphia, petitioning King George III of England to remove the acts. His refusal, among other factors, would lead to the battle at Lexington and Concord in April of 1775, marking the opening shots of the American Revolution.